say, if we grasp inherent existence, that is wrong. But even the grasping doesn't exist. So again, you see, like your self-grasping may now feel like, okay, the grasping is wrong. That is inherently wrong. But then it says that which grasps, the grasping and the one who grasps, and what is grasped, all are being pacified, as in like within emptiness, nothing can be found to exist in and of itself. Hence there's no grasping. So you have all these different aspects, but you don't really find any action of grasping. There's that which is grasped. You talk about that which is grasped, just labeled, the grasper, the grasping mind, the one who grasps, the person who does so, and the object that is grasped. So these are the different aspects, but do you find any grasping there? For me, a good example is walking. Again, we don't meditate much on activities lacking inherent existence, right? Do we ever? Walking. Walking is like lifting your foot. It's like different, right, moments of movement. And labeled on the basis of that, we call it walking. There's no walking to be found. None of those moments. It's kind of like if you take a film of it and you look at each picture frame, there's no walking. It's the continuum based on which you say walking. Where's the walking in the walking? Nothing. There are legs that do something, there's a person that does something, there's a brain that does something, there are feet doing something, and all this together, based on that we say walking.
But again,
label walking.
As yesterday when he was asking, there is the function that moves you from point A to point B.
But where's that function? Where's that function? There's a leg moving. We label function on the basis of these different parts. So movement, or the function of movement, right? When you look for it, you don't find anything.
You found yourself here, then you imputedly walk, and there is nothing there, but then you find yourself in the dining room. Imputedly.
Right? So what we're saying is just that, like an activity of thinking, we say thinking. It's just different moments in time taking something to mind, and each moment being different. Based on that we say thinking. Or grasping. Oh, this person is grasping. I'm really bad, I'm grasping. But even the grasping cannot be found. There is a mind that does something, right? There's a certain mind, there's an object, there's a person. All those together, based on certain moments of experience, we call it grasping.
So every word is a snapshot of time or like a certain adding of moments.
For movement, you need moments. You need to continue.
Every word is a snapshot of something.
Or space.
And space.
And or
each moment is imputed. Each moment is not inherent, each moment is imputed. We're talking here about continuum.
But even like grasping is a snapshot of a certain thing, what is a certain process or certain...
But the process is also just labeled.
Right, I'm saying, yeah, also, but every word is a snapshot of something. It's like trying to put something in the world of phenomenon, what we perceive. You try to, like...
Yeah, we use a word that seems to make it more solid than it is. Yeah, I would agree with that. But we don't blame words for that, we just blame our mind. Yeah.
Same is what we do.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but the point is, it's not that there's something there that really exists, but our words confuses us.
Yes, very good. Yeah.
The thing that really exists is
yes, it confuses
by itself.
And
the attachment to the concreteness of the words.
Yeah, but without, even if you look at the object itself, the appearance itself is misconception. The appearance of the object without even using these words.
Okay. All right, yes. So let's go 16. Since there's no grasping, no inherent grasping, whether mistaken or correct, who's in error, who's not in error? Okay, who's in error, who's not in error? One who was in error, okay, this is taking it further. So since there's no grasping, whether mistaken, whether you would, actually grasping means inherent, I guess inherent grasping, whether mistaken or correct, who's in error, who's not in error. So in the worldly sense, there's a worldly sense in which grasping and not grasping. Let me just go to my...
Since there is no inherently grasping...
There's no inherently existing grasping. Agent, object, and so forth, there's no inherently existing person.
Whether you call it permanent, the table permanent or impermanent,
Yeah.
Mistake or not mistake, it doesn't matter. It's not inherently mistaken, not inherently.
So there's no, but
correct.
no, there's no one in error. There's no. It goes back to the person. So since there's no grasping, then you can take it back to the person. Who is in error? Who is not in error? So taking it back to the person. So that since there's no grasping, there's also no person grasping or not grasping. And then one who is in error cannot commit error. This is talking about the 3 times. If you are already wrong, you're not committing an error. You're already wrong, right? So this is in terms of the times. If you are already grasping, okay, then you're not now grasping, because you're already grasping. If you're not yet grasping, it hasn't started yet. You're to grasp in the future. Does that make sense? If you're about to grasp, in the future, you're not grasping right now. That's obvious. If you're already grasping, then you're not grasping as such. So here what the author is trying to do is, when does the actual grasping take place? When are you actually walking?
It makes sense.
If you are already walking, then you don't walk. You're already walking, you don't walk. Okay? Then the only other possibility, there are 3 possibilities. You're walking when you're already walking, when you're walking right now, or when you're walking in the future. He's trying to find the activity here in terms of the 3 times. Before it was in terms of agent, object, that which is grasped, etc. So finding the grasping within that. That's one way. Now he's taking the 3 times. Okay, walking is a continuum, it's a process that takes place over time. But when does it take place? When you have already walked, you can say you walk when you have already walked? No. When you're about to walk, you don't say you walk. The only other possibility would be while you're walking. But while you're walking, he's saying, there's an earlier moment, you have already walked, and there's a later moment, you're about to walk, and neither of those is the moment when you walk.
There is no present time.
You can't find a present. You can't find a present.
I understood it a bit.
For instance, you can take, when something arises, when something is generated, okay, the way that's always helped me is like, when you say a car was produced, when is the exact moment when the car is produced? When is the exact moment the car has now been produced? Because each moment can be divided in a former moment and a later moment. So what is the exact moment when you produce something? Does that make sense? And again, you can subdivide it. You cannot find the exact moment when it's produced, because there's no smallest moment in time. There's always a former moment and a later moment. So when is the exact moment you walk? When you're already walking? No, in that moment you already walked. So it's not like you walk as in like you do the walking right now. You already walked. The future, well, it hasn't happened yet. That's clear. While you're walking, what is the exact moment you're walking? There's a moment earlier and there's a moment later, each moment. So you don't find the exact moment. So the same is true for the grasping or being in error. Being in error, right? Being wrong. Previously you were wrong, okay, so you can't say, I'm wrong now, because you were wrong. It's happened already. The future hasn't happened yet. So while you're in error, but when is the exact moment? You can again find a former moment and a later moment, but the exact moment you can't pinpoint. And if the exact moment doesn't exist, if the present moment cannot be found, you don't have past and present. Past and future, sorry. Past and future. Does that make sense?
Not really.
Not really? Okay, more to discuss, more to think
No,
about.
if I understood it differently if I add the word inherent. Because one who was in error inherently, of course he cannot commit error because it's inherently, it's permanent.
But Leora, all this is inherent anyway. We're trying to pinpoint it.
Yes.
You see? And the moment you try to pinpoint when was the car created, you're actually going in inherent existence. When was the exact moment? Where is the exact car? That is already getting into... So the 3 times, the moment you investigate the 3 times, if you just sit back, oh yeah, conventionally, someone is walking. All right. But when I go exactly, what is walking? What makes the walking? I'm going right into the inherent existence. The analysis here is that of ultimate analysis. The form of analysis is that of ultimate analysis. So I don't even need to add. I could, but it's actually a form of ultimate analysis. Okay. All right. I mean, previously it was not that obvious, like being mistaken. We talk about it in ordinary sense, but here we needed to add it just because otherwise the rest wouldn't make sense. But actually we're all doing ultimate analysis. It's all like looking deeper, not just looking from afar. But we don't engage in ultimate analysis. Just look back. This is a pillow, this is a person, someone is happy, someone is not happy. But that's just appearances. And if we really analyze, it is our mind labeling. But when we really analyze it, that cannot be found in the object. That's what we're trying to do, to really look for it. Okay, what's next? Next is...
Geshe?
Yeah.
You want to do a short meditation sometime, or what do you prefer?
All right, so we have a lot. We have how many verses to go? We could meditate a bit, but we also... What time do we have to stop? It's already 4 o'clock.
4:30.
No, it's 15 past, and we have 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes. What would you like to do? To do a meditation?
Yes.
All right, so we leave it at verse... We got to verse 18.
Next year?
Okay. Yes, next year I'll continue with this. So I'm not in a rush about this. I'll just continue.
We have many like this.
Yes.
Anyway,
I mean, each chapter is a meditation in itself.
but this time we'll take it on ourselves to read
I
it
think
in
each
advance.
verse is a meditation by itself.
So we can read it
Pardon?
at
I
home.
think that each verse is a meditation.
You're right, absolutely. Each verse actually is. But for you to be able to meditate, it's good to have gone through it once. Of course, it's not more. I'm not doing once, and you need to hear it again and again. Possibly read about it again, and maybe just pick a verse. I mean, you could just pick a verse every day. Just take one verse a day. In a year, you're through it. In a year, you can do this course. Better, much better than I could ever imagine. You do one verse a day, try to understand it, and meditate on it. That'd be perfect every day. On a daily basis, doing a meditation on emptiness, right? Take Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary. In English, it's available in English. There are some other commentaries, just Google it. There are some other translations, and just read it over and over, and you'll get some understanding. All right, anyway, let's do a little bit in 15 minutes. So focus on the breathing again. Let's just settle the mind in the breath. So now taking to mind the afflictive emotions, the 3 poisons of attachment, aversion, and confusion. Although it may seem that they exist as an inherent affliction, They lack any form of intrinsic or inherent existence. Since they're merely labeled numerous causes, conditions, and other factors. So they're dependent on pleasant, unpleasant feelings as well as error. So taking attachment it takes to mind something pleasant and arises in dependence on pleasure. Which does not exist in and of itself. Although the pleasure seems to exist in the object, it is a feeling our mind experiences as a result of a virtuous karmic action accumulated in the past. Also its object, shape, color, sound and so forth, do not exist inherently in the different objects. Pleasure is only pleasure in relation to displeasure. And displeasure is such only dependent on pleasure. So what is it that we're actually attached to? And how about our misperception of reality, our misapprehension? It seems to exist as intrinsic ignorance, being intrinsically mistaken. Is it intrinsically wrong to say that the table is impermanent? That the table is permanent? Cannot be intrinsically wrong, since the table is neither inherently permanent nor inherently impermanent. So if our misapprehension is not inherently mistaken, then eliminating the misapprehension and nirvana do not exist inherently either. So there's no inherent practice of meditation. That we engage in right now. Just different moments of awareness which we label as meditation. Depending on the mind that meditates, the one who meditates, the object of meditation. So in that way, there are no inherent negative actions. Nor inherently positive actions. And therefore no inherently existent I. Or mine. That we need to worry about, feel anxious about, are angry with, and so forth. Understanding of which creates some space in the mind to focus on the welfare and happiness of other sentient beings.